At the Indianapolis East Side Church, the busiest man isn't always the preacher.
Did we have enough dessert, you think?
Dr. L.T. Gates is known there as the church's sous chef. Every night at the Pentecost series called Summer Blast, he's been in the kitchen feeding 200 people. But his day job? A white coat, not an apron. At 78, LT is still a full-time physician, and yet nothing in medicine could have prepared him for what happened upstairs on that sweltering day in July.
Here's how I'm finishing tonight.
On the final night of Summer Blast, the sanctuary was full. When the evangelist gave the appeal, dozens of people walked forward, including one that shocked the congregation.
One person came and said, "They want you upstairs." And I'm thinking that I was going up to try to resuscitate somebody. Someone had, gotten ill or something.
But it wasn't a medical emergency. It was his wife, Emma, making a declaration to join the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
I just sort of just startled. I didn't know what to say. I just didn't know. And I said, we hadn't discussed this. And so when I asked her about it, she says, "No, this time this was between God and me and had nothing to do with you." I said, "Very good. I accept that."
This wasn't the first surprise in LT and Emma's story. Their love story began as high school sweethearts in Arkansas.
He asked me could he take me to the prom? And from there,
What did you say?
I said yes, because I didn't have a date to the prom.
They married after college, eventually moving to Seattle for LT's medical school in 1971. That same year, they would welcome their first daughter, Leisha. But at just 7 months old, tragedy struck during a Thanksgiving dinner at a friend's house.
A couple had a little son that apparently had mental difficulties. That night, he became very distraught and found my daughter in the guest's bedroom sleeping and just went in and just physically attacked her.
After laying Leisha down to sleep, Emma came back to the scene of a nightmare.
I went to pick her up and looked at her, and she just was not herself. And I grabbed her up and I went to tea and said, "Something is wrong. Something was wrong with Leisha."
What I saw, she was bleeding from her nostrils and her mouth. And as she said, she was just listless. She just wasn't saying, just grunting, just the grunting respirations. My very dear friend had a little Mustang. I grabbed her, Alicia, and he got in his car to get us to Children's.
Yeah.
So we got there and they rushed her in and took her to surgery. And the surgeon was there for about an hour or so, and he came out and just shook his head and just walked away. I don't think he said it. He shook his head and walked away. And we knew then that, hey, this was, she had died.
The Gates tried to go on, welcoming a second daughter, Andrea. But by 1977, the grief was too much, and they divorced. The Gates would move on, building separate lives. LT, while serving in the military as a physician, would encounter Adventists and join the church. He later would move to Indianapolis. Meanwhile, Emma would raise the couple's daughter in Georgia while she worked as a respiratory therapist. For almost 4 decades, it seemed their story was finished.
2013, we had a reunion, and that's when it all began.
The two talked for a long time before heading out to dinner, where old memories came rushing back.
And my mind just flashed back to when I first met her, the birth of our first child, the birth of the second one. So I looked across the table at her and I said, do you want to get married again? And she just looked at me as if that was just the most terrible question I could ever ask. But she sat there for a while and she paused and she said, are you serious about this?
And that was the miracle. Forgiveness, forgiving ourselves, and forgiving each other. And that love was still there.
Within a few months, Emma and LT remarried.
That was the best cake ever, though.
She would move to Carmel, Indiana to be with him. But for 12 years, though she often joined him at church, Emma never made it official until this summer.
And I was asking God, is this really something that you want me to do? So that's what brought me to the point where becoming an evangelist.
The couple are faithful members of the church and are often found side by side serving their community.
We're at a point now where, although many years have passed, but there's still growth. We can still grow together. And whatever God wants us to do together, we're open to that now.
Through it all, I just learned more and more about God. He's been proving himself to me and that he loves me.
Together, they live the promise of Revelation 21:5. Behold, I am making all things new, a story of brokenness and grace and of love made new.